Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Girard, a more than audio podcast. We've got a super special guest on today. He's a Canada Research Chair in Design and Media Arts and is Associate Professor of Design at Emily Carr University. His art and research investigates DIY culture, electronic art, and critical design practices, and he's exhibited in 18 countries in venues including SIGGRAPH, Ars Electronica, and DEF. And he has this new book coming out, hitting the shelves soon, on DIY culture. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Garnet Hertz. Welcome, Garnet.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, ready for 20 questions?
Oh yeah, you know it.
Here we go. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Well, I work at Emily Carr University as Canada Research Chair in Design and Media Art. And the main thing that I'm doing right now is I'm working on a book on art and DIY electronics. I'm interested in things like the history of how artists have used technology in different ways and how artists work as designers and kind of the crossover territory between engineering and design and art. So I'm interested in sort of non-official uses of technology and interested in looking at how the advantages to artists working with technology and building stuff, because I think it's for me it feels like technology gets treated as kind of the domain of science a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested in looking at kind of informal networks of people and artists as inventors, and that technology doesn't necessarily belong to science. It belongs to the arts just as much, and artists do really innovative work. And so that's primarily what I'm working on. And I should say that I also was involved with seeing the whole kind of maker movement, or what was later called the maker movement. I sort of experienced the birth of that in LA. I was there for grad school and had been organizing an event that kind of evolved. The Make magazine and maker fairs and all that kind of stuff really grew out of some of those communities, and so it's interesting seeing that kind of evolve and really erupt 10 years ago or something like that. And really interesting. So I'm interested in sort of like almost the prehistory of the maker movement, or what was their what's the deeper roots of the maker movement, and specifically in terms of the contemporary art scene.
Great. I just want to hold this book up again. This is kind of a big part of why we're here today doing this is to showcase this book that's coming out. But I remember when you were in the audio podcast, the first podcast, we were talking about your skate park work, I could never pronounce it, which seems to still continue. And then kind of we had Jermaine Coe on the show, who was also doing similar work in the DIY space, and that kind of all took off, and this whole direction kind of got established within the podcast. And so part of us being here today is this kind of steamrolling of this new area that we're in. But this book has been a long time coming, and it's something that's really a lot of people are excited about at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's really a rewriting of my PhD that I had started in, it's been, the roots of this book had started 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I hadn't been working on it every day for 16 years. It's a considerable amount of writing and rewriting and forgetting about it and then coming back and revising it. But it's been a very, very long-term project and something that's really special to me. I mean, I got into actually writing in general, partially because I was dissatisfied with the writing that was being done about my friends and I, kind of. I mean, I was sort of frustrated at the art history kind of approach or media studies approaches to writing about technology and culture, and so I started writing kind of the book that I had wanted. I wish that was written about me, and tried to write about and lay out kind of a rubric or a map for the for this field that I hoped addressed the more down to earth, nitty gritty details of building this stuff. But in terms of the skate park stuff, I mean, I've always been interested in that subcultural component of the kind of underground communities are always like so much interesting stuff happening kind of on the edge of the map, kind of outside of standard public view. Hackers and kind of artists that work with technology are one community that I really connected with in Los Angeles. And recently, as you referred to, I've been, kind of studying and participating in graffiti communities and skate park kind of culture in Vancouver. And it's totally, I mean, for me, it's super inspiring and unexpected in lots of ways. So the main part, I think, to that is that for me, the most interesting stuff is always at the edge of society. So.
And I'm just kind of staring here at this manuscript that Garnet has brought here. He's got it sitting here. It's this massive, this is what we're talking about, this massive amount of work and knowledge that you guys are going to get.
This is single-sided, though. It's single-sided.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Okay, let's move to question 2 here. So what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Yeah, we better hurry up. We're not going to get through this. A key piece of knowledge, I think a key thing is that I've tried to take time to study and understand different disciplines with some kind of effort. And I think that makes me different in some ways. I had gone to do an undergrad in fine art, and then did a master's degree in arts and computation and engineering, and did a PhD in humanities, and then postdoc in computer science. And then I work in design, and and I like building stuff. And so the combination of those things, I think, makes me different.
It's a funny question to ask everybody what makes them different, as the guests accumulate. But what I think about is kind of some sameness. And we had a great professor on, Dr. Ron Wakari, who also came out with a book recently, and I'd written a book review for his book about more than human worlds, and now he's going to be keynoting at Interaction 23 in Zurich. So I thought that was such an awesome trajectory for if those were connected in any way. I was so glad that happened, and I thought of you and how I'm hoping to do a review of your book as well. So hopefully more good things coming on that end.
Yeah.
So number 3 is, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Because it's fun. I
Yeah.
guess. Well, I mean, that's a bit of a glib kind of response, but I mean, I do what I'm doing because I'm at the core of it kind of addicted to building stuff and making stuff, and fascinated by the folks that sort of give their lives to that. I've always been a bit mystified by how artists make livings or give up so much for their practice. And so I think at the core of it, it's kind of trying to respect that in different ways, either by building stuff myself or by trying to communicate and spread the work of people that I see around that I think is important to pay attention to. So at the core of it, yeah, building stuff.
And you do a lot of making. I mean, this book cover, for example, this was all you, right? This cover, you designed this. You had a series of covers, right? That you were,
yeah. No, I got down and nasty in the risograph machine and made a whole bunch of stuff, and I try to go deep into those different processes and try to take time for those things where I can. So
yeah. I hope the audience gets to see the massive printout of the mock-up of your book. Garnet on his social media post is like, it looks pretty massive.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be piñata for the book launch party. I think we're going to fill it up with zines and candies and smash the heck out of it.
That sounds awesome.
Or burn it or something.
Yeah, totally. You know, see.
It seems like has some ritualistic purpose.
I get where you're going with it. Actually, it's pretty cool. What does your future look like?
My future? Oh boy. Well, this book is coming out in a month. Mm-hmm. That's the only future that I really am focused on. But honestly, after that, I mean, I'm gonna be pumping this book over the summer and stuff like that. But in this upcoming year, I plan on doing tons of studio work. I've been sort of, slogging through the last parts of getting this book together over the past couple of years, and have a backlog of studio ideas. So I'm planning on shredding in the studio. I hope. Let's see if it happens.
You need to get a shredder. I did an internship at an architecture firm once, and at the end of the day, we just started putting everything through the shredder that the clients can't see.
Oh yeah, we
do that too.
We could do that.
Yeah, number 5. Let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Well, to be honest with you, the art and technology stuff, my concept of that really is not really grounded to a specific place. I mean, the community of that, folks that are doing, robotic art or electronic art and that kind of stuff is pretty located all over the world in pockets. And with a special kind of rabid following in Europe, Germany, Netherlands, France. I think my work gets read and taken up in. I don't know that Canada is kind of has a tradition in terms of media art and Canada Council for the Arts, but in terms of like active community of people meeting up together, it's less kind of place oriented. On the other hand, the skate park stuff, the graffiti stuff, that's like really, really super local. That kind of work and those sort of newer explorations have really made me feel at home in Vancouver and have given me a sense of home in Vancouver. So
Because your education is in the States, right? Like we've had, and you know, on this podcast, we've had such a great kind of reach for the New York community, especially very recently on the audio podcast. You know, Jessica Halfin was on, Timothy Goodman, you know, Stephen Heller. We had a really good run recently, and now here comes the Canada, and I think it's really exciting for the audience to have that kind of shift from a place, you know, from being in that kind of center, and then to see the other kinds of smaller communities that exist. I think it's super exciting. So yeah, I'm excited to amplify the efforts around the skate park and what's happening there as well, and continue to do that through social media and stuff like that, because I think it's super exciting, and that's my primary reason why, actually. So the next question is, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Oh boy. You know, I probably wouldn't give myself any other advice than, I don't know. I actually don't have a lot of like massive regrets in terms of, I wish I would have told myself this or that. Gee whiz. I don't know. I mean, at a certain point, in the whole the first .com era, I actually had kind of left the arts and was doing design work and had a startup, was trying to sell my company under an IPO, had wanted to make money and retire by the time I'm 30 years old. And at that point, I kind of, at a certain point, it blew up with that whole .com bubble, and I kind of decided at one point that I was going to pursue the arts in some way and try to make a living doing that. That, I think, was the main kind of decision. And I decided to, you know, move to California, go to grad school. The millionaire thing didn't work out exactly. and so that, I think, was the decision that I had made that's been, you know, really hard, but also good. So I think I would point to that decision, and I think that decision made a big difference. So
I mean, one thing I wonder about that question is, what about the book? I mean, we had Dr. Ron Burnett on the show, and he, in his older age, is saying he wishes he had done books more quickly and more rapidly. And he's very invested in this idea that the book is kind of the artifact that people should create as a kind of legacy item. I know that you're excited about your book, and I know that you're ready to promote the hell out of it, but is it something that you wish you would have done sooner or more of?
Well, I've done quite a few books as zines, and this is actually my first academic monograph with Real Press, MIT, yada yada, you know, sort of the bucket list kind of publication that I wanted since forever. But I find that those zines, I mean, I really do value those zines, and I do like, and I had done, you know, quite a few workshops where people get together as an event and where we produce a book, like a booklet, as an end result. And it's great because you have, and I'm doing this actually for a course I'm teaching right now at Emily Carr, where we use the my textbook as my forthcoming book as the text.
Okay.
And the students are producing a zine. And for a course for students, I love doing that, where students produce a zine and they have a book as a real thing, because so there is something substantial about books, and it's a nice package, but it's certainly not the only kind of package that I'm interested in. I find the academic kind of monograph to be, through a major academic press, to be a little bit of a cumbersome shoe to fit into, but but has a lot of advantages.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, books are great.
Mm-hmm. It's more of a journey though, from the zines to the academic press to potentially something more, or potentially more of this.
Yeah, I think that I'd probably go back to self-published stuff.
Yeah.
Or, you know, kind of the format that Julian Bleecker of Near Future Lab, of like independently produced but professional quality, sort of bypassing, kind of setting up your own kind of press in some ways.
There's a lot of criticism around the university presses these days, isn't there?
Well, yeah, and that's a whole other episode almost.
Yeah, okay. So what's a day in your life like?
Day in my life look like? Depends on the day. I generally try to cluster. My ideal schedule has only a couple tasks per day, where I sort of try to go into sort of like monk mode, where I will try to kind of like focus on particular kind of tasks for days. So the typical days are kind of very different based on the day of the week. But, you know, I am generally meeting with graduate students, or meeting with community partners, undergrad students, teaching, and then a lot of email and laptoping. And then generally at night, I 50% chance out at a skate park at night, and then at around 11 p.m. I'm generally spray painting somewhere. I mean, and honestly, this group of friends that I've formed through that kind of that space has been really fabulous. It's given me a sense of community that I was hoping I'd find at a university with colleagues who are massively talented, but you often don't have much energy to really just hang out for fun. So yeah, I really have been enjoying that community, and I'll see where it takes me. So.
I mean, when I think about your scape artwork, I think about the aesthetic around it. You know, it's very visual, and you know, this to me looks like it's going to be a book of words, right? Essentially, this.
Oh yeah, it's totally different. Well, it's another thing is that I've never, as an artist, like in the intro, you know, shown in 18 countries and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. All that work has been conceptual, non-visual. Machines, devices that are maybe clever and funny, but are, I mean, they're visual in, like a microwave is visual, but it's not like visual like a painting is visual, right? So, and I've never worked in imagery actually, since just only in private since I was a kid, you know, drawing that you know, my kind of conceptual work, or like the cockroach that drives a robot, or the arcade cabinet that goes down the street, or the vending machine that eats cell phones. Those type of devices that I've made in the past weren't pictures. So this kind of skate park stuff is different because it's actually like fine art, and it's just so weird and different because I've been doing this sort of tech stuff since the mid and early 90s. So it's different, but it's a lot of fun.
And I imagine there's a potential direction with the studio work that you're talking about focusing on, right?
Oh yeah,
right.
Totally.
Cool. So number 8, lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
I have a book buying problem that I have, like, I'm even afraid to see what percentage of my income, disposable income, goes toward books. It's like I need to make a New Year's resolution to buy less books. Honestly, so I buy lots of books. I read lots of articles. I browse lots of stuff. I waste lots of time on Facebook. But the main thing is that I try to stay active, actually building stuff, and active, getting my kind of dirt under my fingernails. And for me, in doing projects and having projects lead the way, that your idea for your project pulls you along and forces you to learn that stuff. So that's generally how I like to learn, is by trying to produce projects.
I really like these kind of alternative methods of learning and taking in information. You know, at the end of the day, I watch music videos on YouTube, you know, some people see that as entertainment, but for me, I feel like I'm actually growing in a certain way when that music hits me, and when my body responds to it. I feel like that's a form of learning. So I feel like the idea of lifelong learning is shifting in many ways, and different people have different ways of doing it. What tools do you use? How digital are you, and how analog are you?
Recently, I used lots of Mod Podge, like crafting glue. Gallons of the crap. I'm just kind of joking, but I actually use all sorts of tools. I mean, that's honestly the fun of life. I mean, not to overstate it too much, but like figuring out new tools and new methods is like so much fun. Like I love it could be anything from a 3D printer to a new set of markers to canvases to high-tech servo motors to whatever.
And you make your own tools as well, right? To some extent?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I do programming, you know, and electronics, and like circuit design and graphic design, and you know, metalwork, woodwork, a whole bunch of different things, video. I mean, or I've made a career out of sort of like continually learning new stuff. So, yeah.
But the primary one is this sludge that you're making a lot of right now.
Yeah. I've also been making my own glue, weed paste glue, which is kind of like flavorless gravy that you goop all over stuff in with big buckets, and it's like a ASMR mishap of sludge or some kind of I'm still figuring that out.
Nice. Work-life balance, how do you deal with it?
Well, I have 4 kids, 3 of which are grown up. 1 is still little and at home. I mean, work-life balance, how do I balance it? I mean,
I use the word asymmetry for work-life balance.
Yeah, well, no, I find that the work-life balance and having kids and, you know, bringing kids to events and I mean, I take work seriously, but I don't think I'm like a workaholic. In terms of work-life balance, I mean, having dinner at home, a hot dinner homemade stuff every day, that's a basic thing, or just putting your kids to bed every day and just being present. and enjoying hanging out with family is something that is really important to me, and that it gives me a lot of balance and stability to invest in those relationships, because it's like it carries you along and cares for you and helps your work in so many different ways that it's just, and why wouldn't you? Because it's like totally great. So I'm totally, yeah.
We're recording here in Vancouver, Canada, and I recently went to Inform Interiors to hear local architect Omar Arbel speak about this kind of stuff. He was asked about how he balances his work life, and he said he has to be really efficient with time. Suddenly, like every moment is much more precious. But I think it all kind of starts to blend together, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that when I had 3 kids in elementary school, I mean, that took a lot of balancing of time and took a lot of kind of careful planning in order to just put it together. But you know, as I've gotten older, and my kids have gotten older too, it's more something that is just able to be fun and natural and yeah, so.
Great. So the next one is, if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
Oh boy. I mean, I sometimes look at the mail delivery person and think about what life would be like to just have a relatively menial, non-academic or just to deliver mail.
and would you ever know any different, right? That's the thing, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be delivering mail. That's just kind of a stoner fantasy more than a reality. If I wasn't doing what I was doing, well, I don't even know how to define exactly what I'm doing, because I mean, if you talk about working at a university, if I wasn't doing that, I'd be trying to make projects full time, or doing some kind of harebrained startup, or doing something like you, or doing or starting up a design firm, or I'm not. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I think about from day to, like every week. I have some new idea about something I want to do. So.
Which kind of speaks to the idea of making and alternative ways of looking at making, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Making is
If I wasn't working as a professor, I'd be trying to build stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other one is, what would you not like to do with your career? You mentioned delivering mail. I don't know.
Well, I don't think I want to be a university administrator. And it's not that.
But you are partly that, aren't you?
Well, I shy away from any administrative responsibility that's given to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that university administrators are so bad in themselves as people or something. It's just that they often are working in kind of a pre-effed system, where where the federal or provincial or state funding has considerably been eroded since the 80s, and is sort of decimated, and this whole system is kind of really difficult and not what it once was. And so the administrators have to make a lot of difficult decisions, and so I don't think I'd want to do that.
Makes sense.
But who knows, maybe in 2 years you'll see me as like new university administrator with a nice salary, and maybe I'll be like, this is great.
On the audio podcast, one of our early guests, Keith Tam, who's based in Hong Kong, had to make that decision, and he's in a kind of a lab director role slash heavily administrative role right now, and I always chat with him, and he's always trying to like push me to do the admin stuff, and I know he's trying to like push me into the trap, you know. It's like he knows what that life's like.
Yeah, and there are talented people who do amazing work as administrators, and it makes a huge difference when people who care are in those roles.
Mm-hmm.
It's more that my talent doesn't really lie in task mastering people.
Mm-hmm.
I can task master on projects, but in terms of working with a team of 20 people and keeping track of all their stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that's not really. It's more that it's just not my favorite cup of tea.
Makes sense. So do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Oh boy, no.
No. Okay. Is it? Okay. That's that.
Many. Yeah. Synergy. No, I don't have.
Well, actually, that works for the next one, right?
That was a joke.
What's a word to describe yourself? Is that it? Synergy.
I would. Well, I think of that word as like some kind of vaporwave, 1990s, like 80s kind of thing. Oakley Blades or something with synergy. The one word is maybe either disciplinary, or multifaceted, or polymorphous. That doesn't sound right, but anyways, something to do with multifaceted. That's what I mean. I kind of would like to be able to continually learn new fields and keep growing through my life by taking on almost like new disciplines as kind of like a practice of growth, where, you know, of not accepting to just do the same thing over again, to sort of try to forge out into new area.
Kind of like polymath, but a better word for that.
Yeah, something like that, or striving, or polymath, kind of like tendencies or aspirations without sounding as arrogant as polymath.
Yeah. What keeps you up at night?
Skate parks.
What's a dream you're chasing?
A dream I'm chasing is to try to figure out what to do with this kind of graffiti work that I'm doing. Because I'm having so much fun with it, and it has nothing to, well, it's
I mean, documenting that becomes something that becomes necessary, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, but I haven't reconciled it with my kind of like academic identity yet. I haven't like sorted out how those two things connect. Although I know that they're connected, I'm just kind of following the studio stuff more intuitively and letting that kind of pull me along.
Great. Final stretch here. What inspires you? What inspires you?
Recently, graffiti artists. I mean, it's pretty crazy to see people who look unhoused that pull up with hundreds of dollars of paint that then lay down a piece that then could be covered over the next day if it's not good. And the level of dedication to the craft is kind of nutty. Or the financial obligations, the physical risk, the legal risk, and all this kind of stuff is just kind of like, for me, it's quite inspiring. And
because this is something you've been getting behind for a while now, and kind of as we're kind of approaching the end here, you know, it feels like it's always felt like that. This recently is that you know that there is this cause out there to support, and whether that means an artist or some kind of aesthetically minded person who's out there doing it is what you want to support in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, and yeah, totally, and it's just that scene is so it's mesmerizing, and it came out of the pandemic. I started going to skate parks as a sense of going to like a club, like, or where I wanted some kind of interaction. And in the kind of the heart of the pandemic, when everything is like locked down, skate parks are one place where you could actually socially distance with people and actually interact with them at quite a far distance and have quite a bit of fun together. And so I started going to skate parks really as the university and all society the social system kind of collapsed. Like we were all on Zoom and stuff, and so that sense of community was really tactile and just there and gritty, and so yeah, for me that was really kind of key. It really came out of the pandemic, and it's sort of grown out of that.
And advice you'd like to share, is it going to the skate parks? Is it checking out the work that these people are making? What is this advice for us?
Well, my advice is, I mean, I encourage people who have some experience in art is to go try to find graffiti spots.
Yeah.
And try to pay attention to what's going on there. There's a whole, if you watch graffiti over time, you see something evolve, that you see patterns of names, and you see a whole evolution of and kind of politics and wrestling. I'm not sure how this is the advice, but go to check out those spots and put up work yourself.
Yeah.
I had started just by taking junk laying around in my studio, pasting it on a wall, and then kind of looking at it, and then so I encourage people, if they have work that's just try doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of fun, and it'll probably get painted over in a few days, but it's once you start to actually be around other people who are doing that work, which just takes time of showing up, then when you start the conversations with other people that are, you can come across extremely experienced graffiti writers or very, very novice people, and it's just kind of random. But yeah, so showing up and putting up work is, I think a lot of contemporary artists would find that scene a lot of fun if they kind of poked around in it. So
awesome.
And also my advice is to order my book.
Yeah. And you know, that's what this episode is about. It's about getting this book, this DIY culture book. So our call to action, of course, I imagine is grabbing the book, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, yes.
And it's coming soon through MIT Press. So super excited for this. Thank you so much for being on the show, Garnet. You're guest number 2 in the more than audio version of this podcast, and we've got a whole bunch of guests lined up. We're almost about 10 coming on in person so far. So I'm just kind of getting started here. I'm super glad to host you today, and excited about the book. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.